In GMTK's 2024 Game Jam, I made a game called Scaled to Nothing. I've been learning the Godot game engine in my spare time for around a year, so I thought I was at the point where I could try entering my first game jam. I could only spare the weekend for this 4-day jam, and I chose to work by myself, so I was bracing myself for quite a challenge. At around 7 on the first day, I woke up and had a look at the theme, built to scale. I started writing down some ideas and got to the point where I was pretty happy. I wrote some ideas around the player changing the size of things as you progress through levels, and ultimately decided upon a 2D level-based puzzle game. You'd be given the ability to scale the size of objects and eventually scale the size of rooms and even yourself. I also thought of an ending where you would break yourself through the walls of the level in order to complete the game. So I eventually went on my computer and got a basic priority list underway and got started with what I wrote down. First on the list was setting up the Godot project, so I did that alongside second on the list for getting some basic movement working. After breakfast, I unfortunately spent quite a bit of time deciding on styling and color palettes, but I did eventually make some basic tiles. Well, I ended up having a break, but I got myself back into it. I made somewhat of a first level for the game, with a plant pot, a key, and a door to unlock. I also added some animated outlines to the objects, which was something I definitely shouldn't have spent my precious time on. And again, I had another long break, but this time for lunch, but this time I got properly back into it. I spent far too much time trying to get the object scaling to work, but I eventually got something working. After quite a long time, I was eventually able to add corners for scaling. I still had a bit of fixing up to do functionality-wise, but I was sticking to the styling for now as I had spent way too much time on this. Also, the code is getting quite terrible already. I tried to make the scaling functionality better, but I thought I should really switch up my priorities as it's not worth it right now. I decided to focus now on getting the level solvable. So I added some scaling to the key, got a few other things underway to get a basic version of the first level completed just in time for dinner. And well, dinner served also as a nice break. I got back into it by creating some more tiles. I also got the second level of the game started. I was starting to take some big breaks in between tasks and pretty well winding down for the day. I added different scaling values per object and required scaling the key to unlock the door to the next level. But hey, I actually continued into a bit after 11. I made it so you can move around objects without scaling. I definitely won't have my priority list completed, but I'm happy with what it looks like I'll be able to complete. Next day, I woke up late this morning, but I think that's great. I'm well rested for the last day of the jam. Had some ideas I was thinking of, so I wrote them down in the notes document. And after waking up properly, I got started with updating the scaling to only occur from the center of the object, as the logic was a bit hard to make it only affect corners. I updated the priority list again. Some of the scaling and positioning issues have been mostly solved at this point. Now I felt like I had a bit of time to fix up some of the remaining scaling issues. I also fixed holding down left click and going from scaling to positioning. This was something I spent way too much time on yesterday, but I think I just needed a fresh mind to be able to get it done. I made the scaling a bit smoother still, but I was unsure how to solve the scaling two objects at the same time thing, so I decided to leave that for now as it's not currently a huge issue. Back to it from a break, added some new objects and filled in the second level. I also decided to make it so that objects can only be scaled or moved when the player is near. I finally solved the issue where multiple objects could be scaled and moved at the same time. I then got a bunch of other things completed too. I made the second level completable, added a basic structure for the third level. Because of the small exit way I added to the end of level 3, I decided to make this the level when you can actually scale the player to escape. I finally got this working, however the code is getting hackier and hackier at this point. My next goal was to wrap this up and make this a completable game. And soon enough, the game was technically completable. We've now got a final fourth level where you can scale the room. Now we're in the home stretch, it was time for me to add some polish to the game. I updated some tile maps, made the ending look nicer, added some basic tutorial text, updated the priority list, and then decided it was dinner. Back from that, I decided to make a main menu, fix a couple of bugs I found with objects getting stuck and the key sizing not working, added some more tutorial text, this time to the second level. It was at this point where my partner was able to try out the game and she was able to complete it after I fixed the aforementioned bugs. At this point I was pretty happy. I decided to create and finish up the itch.io page for the game, and I thought at this point I've got a bit of time, so why not add some sound to the game. I randomly generated some sounds in chiptone and added them to the game, with sounds for moving, scaling, starting the game, going into a new room, unlocking doors, levels and an ending sound to the game. I then exported the game and I was done. I had a super fun weekend and I was proud of what I was able to create. I posted my game in the GMTK Discord and left it at that. Obviously, I had more tasks written down than I could possibly do, but I'm very proud of what I was able to achieve and how I kept reprioritizing everything. The low number of levels is definitely one of the biggest problems. The game pretty much fizzles out after level 2 and there's only 4 levels where 3 and 4 are very short. It also wasn't really a puzzle game, it was more just about scaling objects and moving them around. But hey, as mentioned, I'm really happy with what I was able to achieve for my first game jam, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming GMTK Patreon game jam.